Hey, what's up? It's Clayton Olson, and in this video, I've got another interview with a client named Crystal that I worked with for 90 days earlier this year. And I wanted to bring her to you, my audience, so that you could see a little bit of the internal workings of the coaching that I do, some of the results that she's been able to create, some of the ways that her life has changed around relationship to herself, relationship to other people, and relationship with life in general. I was saying this earlier in an email, and it was a thought that I think really captures the essence of this work. And it's when we begin to change one thing in our life, and we do it with intention, we do it with awareness, we do it with presence, everything begins to change in our life, because there is a way in which if we expand in one area, the entire geometry of who we are and the way that we interface with life begins to shift. So I believe this interview really captures it. Crystal is a total sweetheart, a very passionate person, has a lot of different interests, and it was just wonderful to see her life begin to bloom in other areas that were not the focal point of the original coaching. So enjoy the video, have a listen. If there's a question that you've got, or you'd like to engage with me in a one-on-one dialogue and see how this work might be able to affect your life, you can reach me in the contact info below in the description. Enjoy the video.
I would love for you to just tell me who are you? What do you do? What kind of things do you involve yourself in?
I feel like that is actually kind of a hard question because I'm a certified EMT. I'm becoming an advanced EMT, but that's mostly my job that pays the bills. And I also do acting in film mostly. I've been doing some table read for some theater plays, which feels weird because you have to be so much bigger in your movements, and that is almost feels less authentic to me. But I do that. And I do modeling. Like I've been exclusively working with a company called Launch lately through a marketing group that I've worked with for about a year now.
Also created a documentary.
Yeah, I created a documentary about me and another kid I went to high school with who had experienced domestic violence and child abuse. Domestic violence is a challenge for anyone, but I learned through my own experience that there were really no resources in my school district to help kids through it or to really teach them what it was. And for me, my big wake-up call was sitting in a health class and someone talking about the cycle of violence in a dating environment. And I was like, wow, that sounds like my house. And then I backtracked and thought, no, that's not me. This isn't my life. And it took about a year for me to really accept, no, this is a huge problem. And this is something that I've lived with forever. And when my parents finally got divorced about 3 years after, I was like, it upsets me that I'm going through this and there's nothing out there that makes me feel like I'm normal or that I'm not somehow doomed. I don't know how to do this and I want to do something about it because I feel like I'm angry about it all the time, but I don't have a right to complain or be angry unless I'm changing it.
Beautiful.
And it started this 10-year process to do something about it. I completed the documentary and it's still kind of this crowning artistic achievement of mine. It's actually opened other doors for me in acting recently. That was the documentary. So.
What an amazing way to use something that feels so isolating and alchemize it through art that then has created new possibilities for your future. You really used something that may have been a wound as turned it into a gift.
I never thought of it exactly that way, but yes.
You worked together for 3 months, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. How did that come to be?
I had broken up with my ex about 5 months before, and he was the first guy I think I can ever truly say that I was in love with. And if I'm honest, still very much am. I just, know how to live my life on my own now. He was significant in sort of relating it back to the documentary. Is he was the first person I ever really not only saw a future with, but felt like I could have a future with, because I met him, it was literally a week before my dad died. And it was sort of the world had opened up to where it was okay, I can bring someone into my life and not have to explain, hey, this is something I deal with. This is what you're signing up for when you are with me. And this is your chance to either say, okay, let's go to the next step, or, sayonara, this is not something I want to deal with. I'd broken up with him and it was a really tumultuous on and off relationship. And I felt like I was stuck in this cycle. Some days I'd feel like, I made the right decision. This was wrong for me. It was somehow his fault. And then I'd fall back into, no, I really screwed up and maybe I do have a lot of baggage from my childhood that I just kept bringing into the relationship, and how do I not keep screwing up? And I'd been looking at a lot of coaching services through YouTube, and what was funny is I was watching one of her videos and she was interviewing you, and you were talking about exactly what I was going through in your own life. And I remember sitting there watching it and thinking, okay, well, he does coaching and it would probably be really expensive and I don't know if I should do it, but let's just check out his website. And I did, and you don't list prices, and it looked like, okay, I have to fill out this form and explain why I'm seeking coaching, and then he decides whether or not he wants to call you. And then I just thought, well, I can't get out of this mindset on my own. People in my own like intimate family and friend circle are getting annoyed with me. Like I need to do something. And so I just finally like took the plunge, and we had our initial call, and I was still like slightly hesitant. And by the end of the call, I was kind of like, okay, I should jump into this. It's going to be a lot, and it's probably going to be a challenge. I got into a point of desperation where something needed to change, and I needed help to change. And that was really big for me to ask, because I've always been the kind of person to like kick myself in the butt. And here I was like asking someone else to help me do that.
I think you're hitting on something that's really key too, is that in order for you to get to that place of being able to ask for help, like that was in itself a big step. Like that was actually transformational. Was that a pretty big mental shift for you?
Yes. And I can remember something you said in that first call that really kind of like hit it home for me. And it was almost like a challenge, and I didn't know if you meant it that way. I think I mentioned like, I really want to do this, but at the same time, like it seems like a big investment, and like I'm kind of nervous about it. And earlier in the conversation, I had talked about maybe being afraid of commitment, and you're like, yeah, entering into a coaching relationship is a big commitment. And I kind of thought like, wow, that's a really good line. And there was an initial point where I thought that was a good sale line. And then I was also thinking, well, yeah, but it's true. When you sign up for something like that, it is going to require your time and your money and your emotions. And you really have to decide, like, am I willing to do this? Like a relationship, like any relationship. It was said in such a way where it wasn't mean and it wasn't goading, but it was like, yeah, this is what it is, and it's kind of your choice. And me thinking, all right, yeah. let's do this.
Beautiful. I love hearing that. That is the first time I'm hearing you say that. And I vaguely remember that. And I also know that that is something that I really stand by. There's a power in almost modeling relationship through commitment and coaching that we then get to take out into our life and relationship. If we're committing to really trying something, to really making it work, in some ways we want to eliminate the option to walk away immediately. So as we began to move forward in the coaching relationship, what did you notice begin to change about your relationship with yourself, the way that your relationship with life began to change as a product of these kind of dialogues that we continually came back to on a consistent basis?
All of the weeks are very significant, and they're very insightful, and they kind of make you look at yourself under a microscope. This one in particular really, I felt, gave me insight into how my ex had been struggling in the relationship. In relationships between men and women, we get so much negative feedback about how emotional we are in the world anyway, but you need to do that and allow yourself to be seen and experienced by your partner, because it almost gives him permission to experience more of his emotions that he may not even be aware that he has. So much of my struggle in the relationship was feeling thoughts and emotions that I felt like could break the connection between us or weaken it. And I didn't even want to dive in there. So it's like I would hide. And I realized in taking this course how much I needed to, one, not hide in those moments, and how I carried that into every other part of my life. Like it wasn't just something I did with my ex. Like it was something I was doing at work with my boss and my coworkers. It was something I was doing with my mom at home, because I currently live with my parents. It caused so many more problems just trying to hide it and not be this emotional burden that I've always sort of seen myself as, but to just turn towards it and then maybe be honest with the fact like, hey, I'm feeling this right now and it's causing me to show up this way. And how is that affecting you in the way we're interacting? I took a lot of that, saw it, and tried to practice being more open with my mom first. And it led to me being more open with friends. Work came last in my EMT work. It led me to take more risks and be more open in just things that I was trying in my side jobs with acting. Life sort of started taking off from that point, to realize that these aren't negative things that I'm experiencing, and they're not as catastrophic as I think they're going to be. And one, I'm not the only one who's ever thinking them. I think having such strong emotions sometimes, especially when they feel like they're negative, you feel like the best way to buffer not only yourself, but the people around you from them is by just like either pretending they're not there or keeping them really deep inside you. It paints the way you see the world that day, paints how you interact with people. It makes you less open with the people that those thoughts might be about. And then it almost brings the situation to a head, like the exact situation you're trying to avoid. It's almost like the universe decides, okay, well, you're not going to confront it. I'm going to put it right here for you. And I really started seeing how that would play out. And it was this big aha moment. Tried hard from that point on to own what I was experiencing. I think that's where it really started to shift for me.
If you were to describe Crystal in the beginning of this process, what is it that she may have believed about herself or believed about her life that was creating some type of limitation?
It was either on two extremes. She was either constantly screwing up in some way that she couldn't figure out, and it probably stemmed from something mysterious and enigmatic in her childhood that she should have gotten by now. She's almost to her 30s and she still doesn't get it. Or somehow other people don't have the correct blueprint for her, or aren't as educated as she is in things that she's experiencing, because her childhood is like a unique experience, and unless you have really tried to study about it, you won't get it. And so they're the ones that are causing the issue. And it was like almost this war between two sides. I kept switching sides and not knowing how to bring them together and realize that it's not anyone's fault and it's not a bad thing. It's just maybe a lack of communication and understanding, and sometimes being the person who's willing to go out in the middle and like hold that olive branch, like, hey, this is what we got going on our end. This is your invitation to come out and like be in the middle with me and figure out what's really going on, which is what we do in relationships. If you have enough respect for someone, you're willing to like take that hit and go out first and say, hey, this is something that keeps coming up. Can we talk about it? When you explain that in a breakup context, it's not the most sexy answer to give someone. Like, people like the rage tirade of like, oh yeah, he was such a jerk, or he was such an asshole. And like, you sit down with your girlfriends and you burn things, or you drink too much wine. That feels active and like you're actually getting something done when you're not. It's not as cognitively challenging to approach it that way, to take a side. And it's a lot more complicated to step in the middle and realize I wasn't completely right and neither were you. And this may have been the place that we were missing. And I wish that we'd come together more of a collective powwow to figure it out. And if I had had maybe the calm and capacity to do that at the time, I would have. What I'm going to do now is take that lesson and bring it into the future. I don't know if we have a model for how to do that that's really mainstream.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I don't think this stuff is necessarily taught in school. So what do you think was the most significant portion that helped you during our dialogues?
The way my mind works is that all the factors are significant and I have to get through all of them to get to the bigger picture. And I felt like I was drowning in that and trying to figure out why I was still struggling with this breakup. In talking with you, there was always this space where I felt like, I don't think I'm annoying Clayton. I don't think I'm taking too long. I think he's really just listening, and he's really listening to understand me, which was really comforting for me. By the time I, in a way, talked myself to the conclusion, you had some clarity and insight to mirror back to me, where it was cleaned up in a couple sentences. And I thought, oh, right, that's what I was trying to say. And if it was ever something that was really complex, you'd always say, you know, this might not be what's true, and you can tell me whether I'm right or wrong, but this is what I feel like you've said to me. Then we can talk about it if it doesn't feel quite right. So there was never an assumption on your end that said, like, I know what you're thinking and I don't need to clarify this with you. That made the difference for me, gaining clarity and talking with you and having a safe space to do that in the way that I needed, because I felt like I had lost that in other parts of my life. Because it's like I would try to be open and talk about why I was still struggling with the breakup 5 months later. And I can remember having a conversation with someone where they're just like, I just don't want to talk about this anymore. And it was like, oh, I'm so sorry I've exhausted you to this point. And that wasn't what I was trying to do. Don't know how to do this on my own. Doors were closing around me, and this was one that wasn't. And I really needed that. And to find like the ultimate truth of like, why was this still something that was hanging around? And once I got there, being okay with it and accepting it.
What is it that you feel like you've created for yourself as a way of being or a way of seeing the world that was different than before?
I got back in touch with a place in myself where I could live life and be excited about my life on my own. When I first connected with you and we first started a coaching relationship, I was caught in this cycle where it was the first time in my life where I was uncomfortable being on my own, that there was something glaringly missing, like a gaping hole, and I couldn't show up in life as vivacious and happy without this piece there. And I'd never felt that way before, and I didn't know how to reorient to life. I felt like coaching with you got me back to that security with myself and that trust in myself that I could wake up every day. And even if I woke up and I wasn't completely happy, I could list off the things that I was grateful for and realize that today is a new day filled with possibility, and I get to choose how I want to like go into it. Being able to come at life that way, despite still having strong feelings for someone, or maybe something not working out the day before, or having a really big challenge that I had to face in that day. It's like there are still things that I can see around me and be excited about. Like I actually had that this morning. Like I woke up and I thought, you know, I'm really tired from this last week. I had to do some hard things with certain relationships. I don't get to go anywhere today, even though I really need this rest. Is today just going to be boring and mundane? And am I going to be unhappy and like sit in it? And I thought, no, yeah, I'm at home doing chores and doing studying and homework, but this is kind of exciting because I have space for me and I can play loud music, or I can go outside and And maybe those seem like really little things, but it was like a mindset change for me. There's a different way that I look at life. It's a lot more empowering.
I'm curious what you've noticed begin to change externally.
Well, specifically with the acting, like I've always been behind the camera, and it's a really safe way to be honest because no one's actually seeing you. And in acting, like you really set yourself up to possibly be judged or critiqued because people are watching your every move. And film in particular, like it catches the most minuscule of emotions and movements. It was literally right when our coaching relationship wrapped up after that 3 months that I got back-to-back opportunities to do everything from a feature film to a reality TV show, where in the second episode, even though I was a background extra, like my face was on national television. Like a friend of mine reached out to me from the Midwest and said, "Oh my God, I just saw you on TV." I was lucky that it was so condensed. Like I had so much opportunity in a short time frame. Like in the 2 months after we had our coaching relationship, it was so condensed and I didn't have time to like think about, oh, should I take this opportunity or not? It's like, you need to say yes or no right now. And that was great because it led me to a stand-in job with a television series called Hacks on HBO. And I remember I got to that point, and when that casting call came to me through my agency, they were specifically asking for a woman who was my height with red hair, a fair complexion, which doesn't usually happen in Hollywood. Like you're either blonde or you're brunette, and that you would be standing in for a lead character. And it was quite a bit of money as well. And I thought, okay, I'm going to submit for this just because what the hell, I might not get it. And it was given to me. And this got me a pass like into the Screen Actors Guild, which is very hard to do for even someone who's a seasoned actor. But it put me in places where like I'm literally standing in a private hangar in the McCarran airport, like around people that I've seen over and over again on television, and just like thinking, I can't believe this is my life right now. I wasn't expecting this to happen just by saying yes or saying, well, what the hell? I took the leap to say, give it a shot. And this happened. And I look back at this whole process and I think, I don't know if I would have felt comfortable saying yes to those types of opportunities when we first met, or really thinking that I would want to put myself out there like that again. Because when I found you, like I was having a hard time even putting myself in my family's presence in the same house around other people. Like I was that isolated. So to think about doing it in front of people who are quote unquote famous with a big network television company, that would not have been something that could have computed for me. And it's opened a lot of doors, and they continue to open. And I'm just like, I'm really glad that I didn't waste time thinking about it or ruminating over it. It was just like, yes, let's go. It's funny because part of your coaching series, Becoming the One, it's the first week and it's a vision of a conscious relationship. And I remember talking with you about like where I saw myself in 3 months. And the way I described it to you was seeing like a version of me that was unafraid of being seen. But I don't know if I really told you like the actual image that came to my head. Like I saw this woman who at the time was on a red carpet, but you know, like she's out in the middle of a crowd and she's not afraid to like pull people out of the crowd into the spotlight with her. And she was wearing not only a gigantic smile and not slouching, like trying to hide herself, but she was in this purple dress. And I remember seeing that version of me. And what was hilarious was there's a friend of mine who I stay with in Vegas when I get acting gigs, and she's getting married and she asked me to be in her wedding. And we were looking through Pinterest photos, and she's like, you know, I saw this photo of you. And she's like, I thought it was you and I realized it wasn't. And I'll turn my phone back on because I actually have the photo. Sure. But she showed it to me and she's like, I saw this while I was looking at wedding photos, and she's like, I thought it was you. And it's this woman in this purple dress who is like walking down a mountain road, and she's got hiking boots slung over her shoulder, but she looks like she came off a film set. And I'm like, really? Wow. You know, you go through the Becoming the One series, and the last week is bringing it all together and realizing that you can get to a point where you're seeing that you're working in tandem with the universe. Like it's not all on you. It's not being done to you, that there's something greater and grand and unexplainable, that when you get to a place where you're working in alignment with who you really want to be, that things will open up. And it felt like that was a crowning moment out of coaching, that had everything just came together in this really intimate space, and it mirrored everything I was doing all at once. And I thought, I can't believe that you got this image too in something completely unrelated. And I realized that was disconnected, but it was just this exciting moment where it's like, wow, that really does happen. And I see it happen a lot more often now that I'm open to it and I have language for it. And I actually have the photo as my cell phone background.
Oh, yes.
Strange how things like that happen when you reorient to what's on the inside, and it can reflect to the outside.
there's anybody that's watching that feels like they can relate to your experience, any final words around the coaching process, or just like to somebody who's thinking about hiring me as a coach, or just looking for support outside of themselves?
I have to get to a point of desperation before I'll ask for help. If you're starting to think about it, it's probably an indication that you should maybe do a little bit more than think about it. Like if it's come up in your consciousness, I feel like if I had tried to do this on my own, I would eventually have gotten here. But the whole process was not only accelerated, and I don't feel like that was the most important part of coaching. I felt like it was easier. I learned so much more going down this path with you than I ever could have learned on my own. Now I have a relationship with you where there was a point in my life where I felt like, I was in a challenging situation again, or even if it wasn't challenging, I just wanted to create something new in my life, and I wanted to do it with someone who could help me bounce these types of ideas around, or reflect things back that I might not have been able to see on my own. It's not just like, oh, I'm so down in the dumps, like I really need help. You don't have to be in that place. I just feel like coaching was so much more of an expansive experience than I recognized initially when I decided to take the plunge and say yes. I feel like that's what I really took away. Like, you will expand so much more than you realize by working with someone, particularly you. You know how to create this space where people actually feel listened to. And I think there are plenty of coaches and therapists or people that we talk with that don't know how to do that. And that will really create space for you to come to your own conclusions and create the life that you want to create.